Welcome to another episode of the expLOREation podcast. This is the lightning lore segment dedicated to those people who are on the run and need their lore packed in a nice little small package. Today's topic, we're going to be talking about some Big Daddies.
Yep, not the ones that are at the club, but the ones from BioShock in this case.
Good stuff. So let's dive right into it. So the origin of a Big Daddy. What exactly is a Big Daddy? For those of you who haven't played BioShock, a Big Daddy are human beings with heavily modified DNA, and the humans have had their DNA grafted into like this steampunk-styled diving suit, right? So how do we go about creating a Big Daddy? Big Daddies go through the irreversible process of genetic splicing. So the candidates went through voice box modifications as well as pheromone application, which attracted the Little Sisters to them. Greg, you want to do a quick little explanation on Little Sisters before we get too deep?
So the Little Sisters were created to harvest Adam in Rapture, and which is like the main power source of like the whole city itself. So these Little Sisters, they usually go around, stick these needles into splicer corpses, and they're usually accompanied by these Big Daddies, which have to protect them since they're, only children at this time.
Excellent. So eventually, the Big Daddies, their skins and organs are grafted into the suit and become one functional monster process suit. Later, they are submerged into yellow liquid to become mindless beings while also giving them strength and agility. Their suit does most of the heavy lifting and provides life support for them. So, the primary purpose of the Big Daddies is to protect the Little Sisters, as we just explained, while escorting them through the underwater city of Rapture. So, they were originally developed and created by Dr. Yi Suchong to serve as Rapture's main sort of maintenance workers, janitors, whatever you want to call them. So, this first wave was indicted into the Protector program. With the increased demand for Adam, Suchong suggested taking splicer DNA and infusing it with their current Little Sisters so that they can gather Adam on their own. Harvesting Adam was becoming too dangerous for Little Sisters on their own, so the idea was to pair them with this massive hulking brute called the Big Daddy that would protect them if needed. Thus, the Protector program, right?
Yep.
The original identities of the participants is unknown, but many were exiled criminals or part of the criminally insane. Some of them were actually political criminals, political dissidents as well. So, Dr. Gilbert Alexander conducted the original experiments that led to the prototypes called the Alpha series. So the artificial bond mimicked that of a father-daughter bond between the Big Daddy and the Little Sister. They were able to use plasmids. The first successful bond was Subject Delta, which was also known as Johnny Topside. Johnny Topside was a diver that accidentally stumbled upon the city of Rapture, and he was subject to this testing.
Yep.
So the Alpha series, in the long run, was ultimately a failure. They could only be bonded with one Little Sister, and if that sister was lost or rescued by Bridget Tenenbaum, the Big Daddies would go into a coma or become suicidally aggressive since they no longer had a target for that bond.
Yep.
Over the next few years, all the Alpha series were slowly deactivated, and they were kept at Fontaine Futuristics. So some later developments, Jeremiah Fink from Columbia, BioShock Infinite, From that reality, he used transdimensional travel to contact Suchong. He had an idea for the Protector program of his own, dubbed the Songbird. Both agreed to help each other out to reach their mutual goals, and once the Songbird accidentally bonded to a test subject named Elizabeth, the partnership had unfortunately ended. Fink closed shop, and Suchong got the short end of the stick since he still needed a solution for genetic capability, but he was able to steal a DNA sample from Elizabeth to further his research. Suchong later died to his own creation when he slapped one Little Sister in the presence of the Protector, leading to his ultimate demise, unfortunately.
Yep.
It just goes to show you don't fuck with Big Daddies.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about some types.
So throughout the game, if you have actually played BioShock 1 and 2, you see multiple types of Big Daddies. One of the first types is named Rosie. They were used mainly for long-range capabilities, often seen sporting a rivet gun. They were mainly used to repair, originally, the structural integrity of Rapture, repairing leaks, cracks, all that such. And they're the guys that you usually see with the one-eyed helmet throughout the game.
Yeah, they're one of the most common.
Yeah, and then you see the main face of BioShock in this case, dubbed the Bouncer. He's seen sporting that heavy, thick metal diving suit, and they have drills on their arms for the close-range attacks. These are the ones that you don't really want to get into melee combat with them, or else they'll screw your shit up. Then you have the Rumbler, which is the newest addition to Rapture. They are used to clear multiple enemies within an area, often sporting a shoulder-mounted RPG, and they're usually used to take care of large groups of splicers that are kind of converging onto the little sister that they're protecting. Then you have the Lancer, which is the final product and evolution of the Rosie series. They are often seen sporting an ion laser big guns, and they are much slimmer, taller, and more decorated than their other counterparts, in this case, Rosies. And then later on in BioShock 2, I still call this a Big Daddy, but you have the Big Sister, which are the later protectors of Rapture. These are little sisters that grew up into the unstable environment of Rapture, produced due to the horrific genetic defects that gene splicing as little sisters had on their bodies. Gilbert Alexander decided to take advantage of their aggressiveness and ability to use plasmids to create the Big Sister line to protect the little sisters and to steal back Adam that was lost from the Rapture family. So how do you know when you're actually in the clear with one of these hulking brutes? So Big Daddies have lights on them that allow others to see which side the Big Daddy is kind of on. So you kind of have a decent kind of consistency of like whether or not you pissed it off or if they're good on you or whatever. So blue lights indicate that the Big Daddy is harmless and is friendly to you. Yellow lights indicate that the Big Daddy is unallied but hostile, agitated, and you'll be seeing a drill sticking out of your torso. And then you have red lights, which indicate that you pretty much pissed off the Big Daddy. They will initiate protector protocol and will do anything to make sure the little sister is safe. At this point, you just gotta run.
Good stuff. So, this topic was suggested by Mr. Gregory himself.
Yep.
Because you love the BioShock series.
Oh, yeah.
So I gotta confess something. I don't have too much experience with it. I have not touched it. It does seem right up my alley, but I just simply never got around to it. So let's talk some initial impressions, man. How did you feel when you first kind of encountered a Big Daddy?
So the first time I encountered a Big Daddy, I'll actually won't lie, I freaked out. And I ended up using all my ammunition and a good chunk of my plasmids. At the end of it, I died, but I just didn't know how to, like, fight them. So, yeah, they actually make a decent, like, impression on the BioShock universe, at least atmospheric-wise, because, you know, it makes sense, this giant underwater city, and you have these giant hulking guys in you know, these diving suits. And I didn't really actually know what they did. I was just thought like, oh, they protect the little sisters. But, you know, they actually, diving into the kind of the background of them, they were actually used for other things such as, you know, as previously mentioned, structural integrity of Rapture itself. But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Coming from kind of an outsider's perspective, I think the Big Daddy diving suit is so grossly is not the right word, so easily recognizable to kind of the masses, you know. Like I said, I have no experience with this, and when I see that diving suit, you immediately, you know, like your mind goes to like the BioShock 2 cover art and things of that nature, and this sort of steampunk inspired aesthetic to it seems truly at home within the BioShock universe.
Yeah.
And sort of what we read up on it and this genetic mutation stuff, and I don't know, it just seems so proper in my opinion.
What if I told you that in BioShock 2 you get to play as Johnny Sopside as the Alpha series?
Johnny Sopside, you said?
Johnny
There we go.
Slopside.
Sloppy sides. Good stuff. So how does that interaction go?
What, with BioShock 2?
With Johnny Topside.
Right, so in the beginning, you have the cutscene where your little sister's kind of lost, and you start going to that, like, pseudocidal kind of depressed state. And I believe it was Bridget Tannenbaum that put a bullet through your head, but you end up waking up later after the events of BioShock 1. And you get to use the drill, you get to use plasmids since you're an Alpha series, and I think that really put a decent perspective on, like, the whole game itself, because in the only interaction that you had in 1 was that you kind of went through the process of becoming a Big Daddy, so you go through the voice box modification, the screen grafting. It's not like that big, you just have the boots on, at least on your perspective, but actually playing as like one of the Big Daddies in BioShock 2 was like phenomenal. I was like hyped. I was like, dude, I need to like play as one of these guys.
Yeah, it sounds like some serious fan service was involved.
Yeah, they're just like giant tanks, and you get to square off against other Big Daddies and Big Sisters, and you actually protect a little sister of you know, yourself. It's kind of like the side thing to do throughout the story. So it was amazing. I loved it.
Awesome. What's the best approach to killing a Big Daddy?
So the best way, in my opinion, to kill a Big Daddy would be to utilize your plasmids thoroughly. You mainly like electrical, or like I think they have one where it's like the fire one, and I think they also have bees that can kind of stun them. And then you just honestly just go at them with whatever you can, shotguns, the Tommy gun, just go full force, because especially with those bouncers, they charge at you, and that drill does heavy damage. So definitely utilize everything you have in your arsenal when you're actually squaring up with one of the Big Daddies. The Rosies aren't too bad, but the bouncers are definitely the ones that you have to watch out for.
They'll ruin your day.
Oh yeah.
All right. So kind of one last question before we wrap this segment of Lightning Lore up. What do you think it is about the Big Daddies that makes them so threatening but yet so like iconic in the world of video game
Well, I think it's the original trailer that came out for BioShock because that's one of the first thing you're seeing is the bouncer itself, and then when you actually go into this game, they, obviously the whole underwater aspect of it, but then you hear them groaning and just kind of like the giant metallic suits that. I don't know. Something about them just makes them shine like that, in my opinion, at least. Especially with, like I said, with like the whole groaning and whatnot. Just hearing that iconic voice, like that, like iconic sound. It's just like
That sound design.
Yeah,
is,
that
really
sound design is
complementary
just
to the
yeah,
graphical design.
yeah. That just like makes my spine crawl, at least in my opinion.
Awesome. Well, do you have any closing comments, questions, or concerns in regards to the Big Daddies?
If you haven't played the BioShock series, definitely go ahead and do that.
Yeah, I actually did not know it was on Steam. I believe the full collection's like $60 for all the DLCs, and I'll be sure to get around to that.
Yeah, then you yourself can square up with Big Daddies and go run screaming.
Awesome. Well, thank you, friends, family, and participants of the Protector program. This has been the second segment of Lightning Lore. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We are on Podbean, Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Overcast, anywhere where podcasts are found. And I guess we're signing off for me and Greg. This has been the expLOREation Podcast.
Yep. You know what we do. We keep the lore and expLOREation.